Okay, let us start. So before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radha Radha Govinda. Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatu Abhyascha Kripa Sindhave Vacha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Te Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasha Desha Tarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So let us do a little quick recap. So what is this? This chapter is all about duty, karma. Karma is action and karma yoga. So how do we connect it to the Lord? Yoga means connection to the Lord. So it starts off with Arjana's confusion, renunciation or action. So he wants to know, because the last chapter 2, the Lord had said, use your intelligence, use your buddhi and not do wrong actions. I mean, avoid the ghastly actions. So he was thinking, why the fighting in the battle is a ghastly thing? Why at all I should do that? I might as well take up renunciation. So then the Lord says, renunciation is difficult because you need to really be mature enough in that. But to start with, you do the prescribed action with detachment. So he says, the sannyasi is not for you. You have to start off with karma yoga. So, but Arjuna was confused. Actually, he wanted Krishna to tell him only one thing straight away. So then the Lord now explains why he is telling karma yoga, do the prescribed actions, because he says there are two kinds of people. They are the karmis and jnanis. Karmis are the one who are so much work-oriented, whereas jnanis are knowledge-oriented. So, but people just think of taking up sannyas and they don't want to do material activities. They want to do, escape from duties. Then, but their senses and think they're still attracted to the sense objects, sense gratification. So that is mityachara. It says that is not the right way of giving up your material. But why we need to do work? Because mind is always active, soul is always active, and it requires some engagement. So you need to do the work and action. Because Arjuna was saying that if I do the action, then there will be a reaction. So if I don't do anything in action, then there won't be reaction. But the Lord says, no, action will, karma will lead to something reaction. If it is pious or proper, impious action, there will be some reaction, of course. But if you don't do your duty, that is, you are being in action, that is also goes to give you reaction. So that is, you should not get confused on that. And he says no one can be inactive for even a moment. So everyone has a nature. They will be active in body or in mind or in words. So you should not give up artificially. Should not. So actually, when you look at this, Bhagavad Gita is not, does not support giving up material activities. We have to do our material duties. It is only telling us how to elevate ourselves in spiritual consciousness. Okay. And now he is going to explain the karma yoga, that karma kanda to karma yoga, how law of karma. He says, I'm not encouraging you to do vikarma, nor am I telling you to, all I'm telling you is to, whatever you do, you sacrifice to the demigods. That will be karma kanda. Then karma yoga means you are sacrificing to the supreme law. Because that's why he said you have come with desires, and so I have created this material world for you to fulfill your desires. Conditioned souls have come. And to maintain this material world, I have demigods are there. They have been appointed as administrative responsibility to take care of this whole universe. And human beings are to cooperate with the demigods and lead their life. And the Vedas have been given to lead your life in a rightful manner. That means you have your desires, you fulfill it in a rightful manner. That's what is all about karma, right? So it is your duty. So then that's what we saw. And then finally, he even explained with the activity of, then he talked about sacrifice, why we should do with the sacrifice. He said, because everything is maintained and we have to give back to them, because otherwise it will be like thieves. So how to purify your desires, how to sanctify your activities is by sacrifice. And he gave an example about the in the 3.14, saying the cycle of sacrifice. Everything is given by the Lord. You sow the seeds, you till the land, you grow the crops, but you need the earth, you need the water, you need the seed, and then you pray for the rain. And once you get it, you'll get the harvest. So you sacrifice, you thank the Lord, you sacrifice to the Lord, and then you use it for your purpose. That is how the whole thing, in any activity, there is always there with the Lord. So that's how he said to do connect it with karma yoga. So now, after that, he said, you do nishkama karma. That means you do your prescribed duty with detachment. That's what we saw till now. Okay. And then now he's going to talk about the jnanis. Jnanis is who have reached that stage of nishkama, who are with knowledge. They know that they have to do the duty, prescribed duty with detachment. So they are the, so now when you come to that level, then what you should do. So that's where, because Arjuna says, see, I don't have any material desires. I don't even want the heavenly things. Then, so that means he is in thing. He said, yeah, but you work for me. That is, you as a friend, you fight for me. That's what he said. That's where it starts off with bhakti. He says, you fight for the Lord. You do your duty for the Lord, for the action. So this is the important. That means you are talking about that. So we'll see more into that, and later will be the last is form. We'll see what is talking. So Nishkama Karma Loka, my prescribed duties are meant to bring material reward, but I do not have any material desires. This is what Arjuna is thinking. Now do have desires for the Loka. I know I'm not this. Then why should I need to perform my prescribed duties? So this is a question comes. So if you are thinking, why I have to do? So Krishna is going to explain why one freed from material desires should nevertheless perform his duties. Even though he is free from material desires, he should do it. And why, he is going to explain now. Actually, this answer which he gives is the answer to this Arjuna's argument. No, there will be a distraction of family dynasty. Yes, because he tells you how to counteract this. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in his self alone, for him there is no duty. Karyam na vidyate. Okay? But he's to think, nor has he any reason to do the duty, but he has no need to depend on others. Because here when he says no duty, means he doesn't have material duty. Because he's self-realized person. He knows the knowledge. He knows what is his true constitution, position, and everything. Okay? But therefore, without being attached to the fruit of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. By working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So, tasmat, because he is now free, he is not having any, he is detached from this material world, then, but still he has to continue to act because it is his duty. He has to work without attachment, then he will attain the supreme. Param apnoti purushaha. So he now is inspiring him to not to leave the battlefield. Why? Because there, the battlefield, there are a lot of soldiers over there, right? Everybody. And they all look up to Arjuna as a role model, right? So they want, if he leaves the battle and go away, then they'll also follow him. And that, but they are not yet mature enough to be detached, right? So then that will not lead proper thing. So he says, you have to do your duty and don't leave the thing. And then there you act as a role model for them. Karmanai he samsiddha. Kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So here clearly he spells out. You don't think about yourself, myself, what am I going to think. You think you are doing it for the others, because you have to be a role model for the others. This is where we stop. That is performance of your duties, because you want to show others how they should do their prescribed duties. And whenever action, whatever action a great man performs, common man will follow. And whatever standards he sets by examinations, the world pursues. Yet that acharati shrestha. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the king or the executive head of state, the father and the school teacher are all considered to be natural leaders of the innocent people in general. Everybody has a role, they all actually have a responsibility to act properly so that others will follow him. All such natural leaders have a great responsibility to their dependents. Therefore, they must be conversant with standard books of moral and spiritual. See, otherwise, what happens if they, there's a person who is preaching not to smoke, but after everything, giving the whole lecture and everything, then he goes back to his room and he smokes. Then that doesn't help, isn't it? He has to be a person who should act as whatever he speaks, and he should also follow that. So he says that's the responsibility a leader has. Has got a real responsibility and we have to follow that. So this is the answer to that Varnashrama, that is Varnashankara. He says, how can there be destruction of dynasty? You are going to be there as a role model. You will be taking, and the way you do your duty, the children and the family, the women, all will follow properly. You will be see doing that, isn't it? So you will be like a leader to them. Your wife. So that way the dynasty won't be spoiled. So now, O son of Pritha. And then he's continues to say in this verse, there is no work prescribed for me within all these three planetary systems. Nami Patashi Kartavyam Trishu Lokeshu Kinchan. Nor am I have to do anything, nor I have a need to obtain anything. Yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. So, it's not only about the others. They have come previously and they have also done their prescribed duties and they have become a role model and they have attained the supreme destination. And so, though I also come, see, the Lord also comes down, isn't it? Even if I come down and this cosmic, he will do duty so that people should not point out him. So he says, there's no prescribed work for me in these three worlds, and I don't require anything, and I have no desire. But still I work. Why? When I design, I work as per the role I take. So I work as per the whole cosmos is designed. So this is what happens. Now the Arjuna's thing, if you do not fight, then the dynasty will be destroyed. So you perform your duty in a constructive manner. Step. So do the duty even if you don't like it, because not doing it can be really disastrous. So this is what he's pointing out. See, if you don't do a duty, it's going to be disastrous. So you do it even if you don't like it. So this is one. So he says, even I myself do the thing. So you might answer, how is it possible? Like, there was no need for the Lord Krishna to go to a Gurukul, right? But when he went to Mathura and he freed his parents, Vasudev Maharaj sent him to Gurukul. Because that is the niyam. Because when he was in Vrindavan, he never went to Gurukul because Nanda Maharaj never sent them there. But now when he has gone to Mathura, and he has to, that norms are there, that he has to go to, they are all sent to Gurukul because they are Kshatriyas. They go to Gurukul and they learn from the Guru and spend some time there. So he went. So he's saying, even if I don't have to, I know everything, but still I do it because I have to, they have set the system and you have to follow that as a duty so that people should not point out, see, when Lord Krishna himself didn't go, why should we follow? That should not happen. So this is what he says. That is so the jnana is, okay, they have learned, they know the knowledge and they can think, but still they have to do their perform it. It might look like their thing, but still they have to do it. So yet Lord Krishna is engaged on the battlefield of Kurukshetra as a leader of the Kshatriyas because the Kshatriyas are duty bound to give protection to the distressed. Although he is above all the regulations of revealed scriptures, he does not do anything that violates the revealed scriptures. So this is what Prabhupada has written, and just take it out there. So here, for if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men will follow my path. So if I don't do it, people will follow my path, and what happens? Then if I did not perform prescribed ways, all this would be put to ruination. So I will be responsible for creating unwanted population. And I would destroy the peace of all living beings. So if I don't do it, what happens? People will prescribe, then people will follow me, and I'll become the responsible for Varna Shankara. So he says, I do that so that to avoid the peace. So the Lord is the father of all living entities. And if the living entities are misguided, indirectly the responsibility goes to the Lord. Therefore, whenever there's a general disregard of regulative principles, the Lord himself designs and corrects a society. We should, however, note carefully that although we have to follow in the footsteps of the Lord, we'll have to remember that we cannot imitate him. See, like, he could lift, but though he was there in the material in Vrindavan, he did show his powers, right? Like he could lift the Govardhan hill. Then many demons were killed, right? So there are things, but we can't follow him word to word. But we cannot imitate. But we have to see that he does his duties even as when he was in Vrindavan and he was with Nanda Maharaj, he used to go take the cattle for grazing, and he did all that Vaishya's work and things. He did what all was supposed to be done. So we have to follow and do our duties as per our nature, not as per the other. So, as the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people. So now Arjunas will have a question. Okay, you say nannies are working without attachment, and ignorant people are working with attachment. But how do I know? Because both of them are doing the same activities. Okay, but how do I differentiate? So this is the word there. He says here in this verse, ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results. Whereas jnanis, because they are working with knowledge, they are detached from the results. So they are only doing the duties to lead the people on the right path. So how do we know? So we should understand it's not just the work, the content. We should also know the intent with which we should also be good. So ignorant person thinks is that why is he getting attached? So that is given in the puppet, the attached worker and detached worker. And why is he thinking that he is attached to the work? Because the ignorant people think that because of him, he is the doer. And whatever success is got is because of him. I did it. Because of me. Everything comes from my efforts. So he's got that credit taking mentality. So that leads to his attachment. Because attachment to the results. He said, because of me, I've done it. Because I've done it, I work. And whatever salary I've got is my effort. So, but actually, who does the work? That's a question here. See, he doesn't understand. You might have taken the arrow, then you have pulled the string, and then the arrow has been released. Okay, but the energy you have got, the intelligence you have got, everything has come from him. So when everything has come from him, we should be careful in thinking. So that this doership that I am the one who are doing, that leads to ownership. That you want to own that the results are mine. And then you want to enjoy. So that's where it leads. And many people even go down to extent of exploiting the others. So we should be very careful with it. So who is the doer? So we are going to learn in the coming chapters who are the real doers. So how the learned people and ignorant people are, their difference in desires. They satisfy for Krishna's senses. They work without attachment to fruits of results. Why? To set an example and lead people on the right path. Whereas ignorant people, they have the same desire, but they want to satisfy their own senses. They work attachment to results. This is the difference. So once we understand this, what is the difference between self-realized person and ignorant person? Then Krishna goes into another step. Okay, you are an unease and you have the responsibility to lead the people, but he also cautions them. So that way, this is in this verse. It's very beautifully how the Lord goes step by step. Na buddhi bedam janayat ajnanam karma sanginam josayat sarva karmani vidwan yukta samachara. So as to not disturb the minds of ignorant people attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop. See, here is very clearly says you should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, you should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So, it's very clear here. So, anybody can volunteer. Hare Krishna. This purport is very interesting. I want you to read.
Can I read?
Yes, ma'am. Prabhuji, go ahead.
Vedescha sarve ahameva vedyaha. This is the end of all Vedic rituals. All rituals, all performances of sacrifices, and everything that is put into the Vedas, including all direction for material activities, are meant for understanding Krishna, who is the ultimate goal of life. But because the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, they study the Vedas to that end. But through fruitive activities and sense gratification regulated by Vedic ritual, one is gradually elevated to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a realized soul in Krishna consciousness should not disturb others in their activities or understanding, but he should act by showing how the result of all work can be dedicated to the service of Krishna. The learned Krishna conscious person may act in such a way that the ignorant person looking for sense gratification may learn how to act and how to behave. Although the ignorant man is not to be disturbed in his activities, a slightly developed Krishna conscious person may directly be engaged in the service of Lord without waiting for other Vedic formulas. For this fortunate man, there is no need to follow the Vedic rituals because by direct Krishna consciousness, one can have all the results one would otherwise derive from following one's prescribed duties.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So here it very clearly says, whatever we have, if the karma kanda thing who is following the Vedic rituals and is doing his duty is fine. But we should understand that, and what the Vedas say, that ultimately we have to understand Krishna. That is the ultimate goal of life. But if the conditioned souls do not know anything beyond sense gratification, They study, for them that is the only limitation. They'll only study to that end. But they can be gradually elevated to Krishna conscious. Why? When they get in touch with the persons who was as a devotee and who is in Krishna consciousness, by seeing them, the ignorant person, working person, may learn how to act and how to behave from them. That is what happens. So he cautions the jnanis. He says, okay, you have reached the stage, but you don't should not induce them to stop work, because you have to gradually bring them into this Krishna consciousness develop. That is what is all that we started saying that. I mean, ekdam you can't stop. You have used to certain kind of devotional work. You have certain traditions and all that. All we say is add Krishna to your life. Slowly, slowly you do that. You come. Then once you start understanding and understanding is deeper, then you will start realizing everything, all finally, or everything belongs to Krishna. So once you have come to that, then slowly you can give up. But in the beginning, you might not have to stop. So here is very clearly Krishna says, don't stop. Don't stop, force them to stop. You behave in a such a way, then they learn how to act and how to behave. So this is how Prabhupada was like, when he initially with the people, didn't stop, force them to leave their bad habits or leave the thing. The way he lived and the way he talked and whatever he was teaching them, and he was living that, and that was the living example. They could see it. They studied him for more than 6 months and then slowly got into it. So that is what here Krishna is clearly saying. So this is what Prabhupada believed in it. And he knew, he was convinced this is how what the Lord is saying to us to do. So ignorant person is not to be disturbed in his activities, but he can be engaged in the service of the Lord. Slowly, slowly he will come up and he will understand what is prescribed duties. Okay. So even for jnanis, what they have to do once you reach that level is what Krishna is clearly telling us here. Okay. Let me come back. Sorry. Okay. So inspire them to work in the spirit of devotion. So he is telling what is the duty of once you come to that level of jnanis, and what is his duty? He has to continue to do his work, his prescribed duties, but you have to inspire them, the people or ignorant people, to work in the spirit of devotion. The spirit, and why is the ignorant people are bewildered? Because they are bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. Because the body we have, the subtle body we have, it's all under the force of the material energy. So we are working, you might have desired, but you'll be working under that mode. Okay. So any other person can volunteer, Hare Krishna. 2 persons. Anybody else to read the purport? This is also
Should
good.
I read, Mataji?
We give another chance to everybody else. Prabhakar Nair.
Yeah, can I
Yes,
volunteer to
Mataji.
read? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhakar Prabhuji, read.
Okay,
2
Mataji.
persons.
2 persons, one in Krishna consciousness and other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by the false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by the material nature, which works under the supervision of Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of this nescience. He does not know that this gross and settled body is creation of material nature under the order of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such his bodily and material activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Hrishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to this long misuse of this sense in sense gratification, he is fractionally bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So here very clearly Prabhupada writes that what happens to the ignorant people, they are material conscious because they think by false ego, they think they are the control of everything. But actually, they are whole thing, we are ultimately we are under the control of Krishna. Say for a small example, you put some food in your mouth, and what is happening inside the body is already taken care of. The whole thing, the whole material body is working, isn't it? And that is there the Lord is, it's under the control of the Lord. The material body, the senses are all under his control. And he, anytime he can, though we think we can speak, and anytime he can put us out also, right? And even the death we know, we don't know when it can come. So we are under his control indirectly, but we forget that. We think we are the masters of the senses of the body. We don't even know our own body properly. How can we understand other things? So here, because we have forgotten him and we have forgotten our relationship, we think we are the doers. So here, Krishna, this is why we are bewildered. So here Prabhupada very clearly explains in this purport. Okay. Let us go back. Oh, where is my mouse? Is not working right. So ownership leads, doership leads to ownership, which leads to exploitation. And we forget because we have forgotten. So one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, Almighty does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between the work in devotion and work for fruitification. So this is between the jnanis and karmis. So bewildered the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. So here clearly Prabhupada, in the Prabhupada writes, persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. I am this. The body is a gift of the material nature. And one who is too attached to the bodily consciousness is called manda, a lazy person, without understanding the spirit soul. So, under the spell of such designations means that I am the father, I am this, I am Indian, I am American. So you are in the spell of such things. So what happens when you are ignorant, think of man or the body as a self, they accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained, the or their object of it, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be the end of themselves.
Hare Krishna.
Social work, nationalism, altruism are some of the activities for such material designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material world. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and they are not interested. So those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate them. So this is what it means. We should not agitate such material engrossed person. Many times we think, why is we are in the family and the family members do not understand us and what to do. Yes, you have come to some understanding, but you can't force them, right? They have to come out slowly. But slowly, they might observe you for a year and think, and you see the changes in you, and they might slowly come to this. So here Krishna is clearly telling us we should not try to agitate such mentally engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similarity. So they might be doing philanthropy work and all, okay, no problem. But you can't agitate them. Still they'll come. So man or ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness. And therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But one thing is, but the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, because they know that the Lord wants all his children to go back. So they take the risk. That is what Prabhupada did. He took so much risk all the way to fulfill his master's thing. To fulfill the purpose of the Lord. So they undertake all kinds of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for human being. So they will try. So it doesn't mean that you should not try. You should do your spiritual acts silently, and to some extent, to whatever possible, you should try your take the risk. So that is there. So here clearly we come to an understanding what our role, the role of the Jnani is not to give up the material world, but to work as a leader. Okay? And no claims to proprietorship and free from lethargy. He says, Mayi Sharvani Karmani Sanyasaddatma Chetasa Nirasir Nirmam. Here you have to see this Nirasir Nirmam very clearly Prabhupada writes and gets an understanding of that. That what it is very clearly given here. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. See, here is very clearly says this is what the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna consciousness to discharge duties as it in military discipline. What do you mean in military discipline? What do you do? What do the soldiers do? They just follow the orders of their captain. Whatever the general says, they just do it. Whether he says you shoot, do this, do that, like a military. So you just do a duty, just that. Just say this is my duty and I'm doing it. Don't look at the consequence, whether it is giving me success or not. Don't do that. So such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is our constitution position. See, we are living in a house which is not ours. We are living in this world which is not ours. It's a temporary world, right? And once you are in the temporary world, you might say, okay, I don't bother and all that. But, and what is the real world? We have got to go back. And we are dependent on Krishna for everything, right? So he says, you carry out your duty because it's your duty. And as per your nature, don't do something else which is not as per your nature. So the living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because eternal position of the thing is we are subordinate to the desires of the Lord. So cause is to become subordinate to we are the eternal servant of the Lord. So Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. So one has to sacrifice everything for the good will of the Supreme Lord. At the same time, he discharged prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. So that's what he said. Without surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to propriety, and free from lethargy. See, this is important. We're free from lethargy. See, we are very lazy to perform the duties. We are very reluctant. So he says the more lazy, more lethargy we have, then more we are not doing our duty. Okay. So he says you have to give up your lethargy. This is the thing here. So it's called Adya, the cashier. Nirasi means one has to act on the order of the thing, because once you are a servant in the house, then you maintain the house properly, because you know you're the servant there. So Nirasya means that one has to act on the order of the master. So it's very clearly says this is the real purpose. Okay. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purpose of Maya and to me. When he says to give it to me, give the results to me, it really shows that he is the proprietor. So whatever we do, it goes to him. So one who acts in such Krishna consciousness, we will not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called Nirmama, or nothing is mine. This is what is it. And there is the reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of something. So we understand that any relationship, anything we have to work with this consciousness. According to the quality and possession, as a particular type of duty to discharge. Okay. And all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described. That will lead one to the path of liberation. So here clearly Krishna is spelling out how do you have to act and why we should act like that. Okay. He says Nirasir Nirmamo Bhutva Yudasya Vigata Chara. So only thing, and we should free from lethargy. That is our laziness. So what is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita? We have to surrender all your work unto me, he says, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claim of proprietorship, and free from lethargy, you fight. So Krishna has spelled it out very clearly. There's no confusion in this. So those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and follow this teaching faithfully without envy, then what happens? They become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. So we clearly get to know what it is. Very clearly it says practically, and also it tells us clearly what we should do. And those who act out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of knowledge. So what do you mean by knowledge is understanding that we are the servants of the Lord and everything belongs to Him. And we have to do the duty just like a military discipline, like just follow the rules. Then without any hesitation, without any lethargy. Otherwise, you are ruined by the endeavors. So even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. So here what happens, he says, we have to lead a regulated life and we have to lead as per nature. We can't, Arjuna is he has got a body of a Kshatriya and anything. Now he cannot take the nature of a Brahmana. So he has to work as per his nature, as his duty, as per his nature. And then he should not repression. So he says what repression can. So you just follow your nature and don't get thing. So there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. So we should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are the stumbling blocks. We should not get too attached, hate and dislike. We should not get into that. Otherwise, our mind is always like that. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. It's always like, this way or that way to keep on. He says you have to regulate yourself and don't fall into that. So it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than others' duties perfectly. Distraction, the course of performing one's own duty, is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's person is dangerous. So Swadharma, we have to follow as per our nature. In fact, this is the confusion many people have. Today, many people get into depression or very dissatisfaction because they would have chosen a career which is not as per their nature, or because some peers has told, they said, no, if you get into that, you'll get more salary, or there are different reasons. Or see, the other person is join that job, you should take up that career. So like that, when you take up something which is not as per your nature, then what happens? You won't be satisfied and it won't be things. So he says, you have to do your duty as per your nature. Otherwise, not thing. So here was an example in the Prabhupada writes about Parashrama. But actually, Parashrama was a Brahmana, right? But he took the role of a Kshatriya to wipe out many knightly things. And that he could do it because he had already gone above that, So for that, you can't imitate. Take up the duty of a Kshatriya also, though he was a Brahmana. But they are in a different plane when they have been given different orders. They can't just imitate like that. So here clearly Krishna says we have to do our duty as per our nature, Swadharma, prescribed duties. Though we may not do it perfectly, because it is better to follow. So some more confusion will come for Arjuna tomorrow. When he says, okay, I know I have to do this. I know this is right and that is wrong. But still I'm forced to do the wrong things. Why it is so. So that we'll see tomorrow. Okay. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां